Greetings and welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you could be here today. Before we begin, please take a moment to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It all helps feed the hungry algorithm. And maybe take a moment to go and check us out over on Patreon. Lots of cool stuff over there. And while I'm at it, let me give a shout out to my Tier 4 patrons. Russ of the Frozen North, Neo5AC, Nick, and Zach. Thank you very much. And now, on with the story. Deathworld Origins, a story by user Captain Meta 4. Chapter 5. Date point: approximately 65 million years before Vancouver. Eternal thought. Creole.
Is the launch bay isolated from the network?
Completely, replied Tineas. I've also had my engineers isolate all of the construction bays. I realize this will be an inconvenience, but we can't risk another intrusion.
I understand. Radir, are you fully uploaded into the pod?
I am. Radir's voice issued from a handheld that served as a host for its digital consciousness. It had a camera, speaker, microphone, and an obscene amount of processing power. The physical Radir smiled and licked his eyeballs. Creole checked the time in his communicator.
It looks like all the engineers are finishing up with the final checks on the engine. We should get you loaded in.
The two chief engineers left the office, Tineas holding Radir's pod. The engineers began to power up the secondary prototype. Kinetics online. Reactors online. Controls online. SuperSim online. Remote control environment loaded. Tineas connected Radir's pod to a jack point in a control panel. Importing mind state to SuperSim. Releasing construction pylons. Commencing test flight. Radir slowly flew the test engine out of the launch bay. He gave it a turn and powered up the kinetic thrusters. Everything looks fine to me. How is it on your end? He asked.
Everything's successful so far,
Creole responded. He was excited. And it hasn't blown up yet, added Tineas under his breath. So far, so good, he said out loud. Radir flew the test engine out in a slow loop around Eternal Thought, then docked it in the landing bay. Test successful, he shouted through the speaker. Now we just need a few more of these. Creole was excited. He'd been thrilled when he had received the CATACLYSM file. But now, victory was finally within reach. He licked his eyeballs in anticipation.
Start up the rest of the construction bays and begin full production.
As Creole began issuing orders for full production, Tineas checked his honeypot trap. There was no sign of the digital creature that had caused the explosion. Zottersil, Galactic Compact Warp Lane G19. Drassik.
And these are our cabins? Yes, responded Shipmaster Za. This one is for you, and the one next door for Mezhir.
They deposited their bags in the rooms and made note of the cabin numbers.
Now I am sure you want to go check your mission supplies. They are in cargo hold H, box 3110. Then you will need to report for duty if you want to keep your cover. Drassik, you will be in the galley. Mezhir, I am assigning you to guard duty. Your shift starts in 2 hours. Yes, Shiplord, Drassik replied.
Za walked away, leaving Drassik and Mezhir on their own. They set off to find their mission equipment, took a wrong turn, ended up in cargo hold F, and didn't realize their mistake until finding that shipping container F-3110 was filled with a shipment of live flumouts. Drassik backed out of the cargo container quickly, hoping that the resulting mess wasn't a biohazard. Cursing themselves for wasting time, Drassik and Mezhir worked their way to cargo hold H, which was, naturally, at the opposite end of the ship. They located box 3110 and found a miniature laboratory. There was a freezer filled with vials of what appeared to be ice. There was a cabinet full of drones. Another cabinet was packed with Geron guns. The rest of the cabinets were filled with dummy drones, things that would look like space debris to scanners. They knew from the mission briefing that each ice vial had been assigned to a different Igrean farm territory and contained a mix of viable biologic agents, mostly fungal spores, suited for taking out Tanakh and Tip-Tip plants in that territory. The drones were for giving the vials a one-way trip to the surface and protecting them from the forces of heat and atmospheric entry. The ship's itinerary had it passing by the first Igrean colony world, Igreat, in 15 hours, when there would be a 5-second drop window to release the drones. Drassik and Mezhir closed up the cargo container and reported for work. 14 hours later. After a thoroughly unproductive work shift, Drassik and Mezhir arrived at their lab in a box, this time without having taken a wrong turn to the F-hold. They found 3 vials labeled Igreat 1, 2, and 3. Mezhir removed 3 drones from the cabinet and loaded the vials in, while Drassik paired the drones to a control tablet. Then they loaded the drones into a hover cart and set off for the airlock.
10 minutes to drop window,
Drassik announced to nobody in particular. They reached the airlock and loaded the drones into the airlock and began depressurizing it.
5 minutes.
The drones floated out of the airlock. They were outside the Zottersill, but within its warp envelope. Meanwhile, in the control room, Za was alone in the control room. Normally, Var and Dorn would be there with him, but they were both off-duty at the moment, thanks to a convenient clerical error. Za removed a memory card from his uniform and inserted it into his controls.
Ship, on my mark, execute the orders on the memory card. Command acknowledged.
Drassik and Mezhir watched the count tick down to the deployment window. 1 minute. 30 seconds. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Zottersill dropped out of warp into local space. The warp bubble collapsed, and Mezhir directed the drones forward, out of the space that would be occupied by the bubble. Drassik's tablet screen filled with data. He quickly plotted 3 trajectories, one for each of Igreat's main land masses, that would allow the drones to descend through the atmosphere.
This is the Igreat planetary security of the House of Shields. Unidentified ship, come in.
The Zottersill translated the message for Za. He played a pre-recorded message that had been digitally altered to sound like an Igrean.
This is the Galactic Compact Cargo Cruiser GO-1984. We ran into some debris that disrupted our warp field. We should be off in a moment.
Drassik sent the trajectories to Mezhir and to the Zottersill. Mezhir forwarded them to the drones and ordered them to follow it. The Zottersill, following the next instruction on Za's card, released several dummy drones from other airlocks and ordered them to follow trajectories similar to the main drones. Then it re-entered warp space as the drones turned to follow their assigned routes. The Zottersill followed the final command on Za's memory card and erased the last 10 seconds from the logs. Za removed the memory card and returned it to his uniform pocket.
Mission success. First batch of drones deployed. 1 planet down, 4 to go.
Igreat Planetary Security, House of Shields. Igreat Officer, Snail.
That was weird. What happened?
Asked Supervisor Teorman as he walked into the room.
Just a galactic compact cargo ship. They said some debris disrupted their warp field and left.
Teorman turned his sensor array towards where the ship had been detected. Sure enough, a field of debris was streaming away from the area.
Did they have a flight path filed with the compact?
Snail looked up.
Yes, lane G19. It passes close to Igreat this time of year. All right, file it under minor incidents. I doubt anything will come of it. Yes, sir.
1 week later, Mozar's bar. Tineus.
How was your day? Pretty good, actually. Want to tell me about it? Classified. Tell me about your day. Confidential.
You're looking a lot better, though. Heh, the latest project hasn't had nearly as many setbacks, Tanea said happily, and took a big gulp of methanol. Everything else is going smoothly.
I'm glad that one of us can say that.
Why, did something happen while I was off-world? Other than my explosion, I mean.
You seriously haven't heard? Proam was shocked. Hang on, let me send you... He paused and licked his eyes as he found the right file. Here you go. Read that.
The message dinged into Taneas' implant. He opened it. Severe blight threatens Igrean Tanakh yield. The House of Fields is reporting that an unfamiliar blight is spreading throughout the ecosystem of Igrean. So far, an estimated 2% of the planet's Tanakh crop has died. The source of the blight is unknown, although there is speculation of cross-planetary contamination. At this time, the disease is not expected to impact the Alliance's supply of supplements, although projections will be adjusted as new information becomes available. The article was accompanied by a picture of infested Tanakh. Rather than green, leafy, and upright, they were black, soggy, and rotten.
That's not good, Taneas said bluntly. Not at all. The farm that I get my research material from is on Igrean. It's close to one of the diseased areas, too.
One of the? How many are there?
3, I think. Looks like a new global contagion. And that was written 3 days ago. Current estimates are 5 to 6% infestation of the viable farmland, with no sign of slowing.
Damn, that's really not good. Taneas sat and brooded for a moment. His memories of his insane digital clone were creeping back into his mind.
No, it's not. The price of supplements is going up. My research is going to have to take second place to the food supply.
Naturally.
And everything will be just fine. Worst case scenario, Igrean is a total loss, and the House of Stars and the House of Fields have to start colonizing another world. Not the easiest task, but hardly impossible either.
A wise man once told me that today might be rough, but tomorrow could be better.
Proam grunted in amusement. I told you that.
You did, Taneas sipped his methanol.
Do they know if the Vostraki are behind it? It's unlikely. They specialize in close combat and radiation weaponry. Poisoning a food supply is something we would do. Or rather, we would do if we had anything strong enough to poison a Deathworld. As it is, the Vostraki can shrug off damn near every infectious disease in the galaxy.
I suppose you would know. I just manage code jockeys.
I wish I was in your shoes right now. You have some fun project for the war, which apparently involves things blowing up. Meanwhile, I've got the House of Worlds and the High House up my glands wanting to know how widespread the madness will get. They don't realize that we have contingencies in place for losing a farm world. We have a huge back supply of supplements, and we're even making some progress on artificial manufacture of them. Like I said before, worst case scenario, the supplements are a bit more expensive while we wait on a new world to be colonized.
Take a vacation, then. I hear the colony of Igrean is nice this time of year.
Proam finished his bowl of methanol. It's been a while. I just might do that.
Vostraki colony of Kolvu, Drassik. Zottersil was in low orbit around Kolvu, with a cargo shuttle dispatched to the surface. Being on a secret mission, it could not just make a straight run of all of the Igrean worlds, but instead it had to hit them on the way from one world to the next. Naturally, its shipping route had been planned to bring it close to each Igrean planet. Drassik relaxed in the shade of some tree native to Kolvu. At least, it was tree-sized, but looked rather more like a huge flower. Drassik supposed that it was a side effect of developing on a smaller, less harsh planet. Mezhir was operating the cargo crane to drop off the delivery. According to the manifest, that was an array of cloaking devices, intended to protect the new Kolvu colony from Igrean aggression. Out of idle curiosity, Drassik checked the shipping manifest for his lab-in-a-box. It was listed as a shipment of stinkwort. That made sense. It was plausible, and yet no one was likely to inspect it. Eventually, the cargo was unloaded, payment was collected, and the Zottersil was on its way. Planetary Security, House of Shields, Igrean, Cone.
And then he said my spawn would grow up into flumlouts. I mean, really, can you believe this? I'm just doing my job. It's not like it's my fault his papers expired 8 cycles ago.
Hey, at least you don't have to work on immigration anymore, responded Vroat.
Yeah, this is way more comfort. Hang on, I've got something. Unscheduled drop from warp. Large cargo transport of some sort.
Vastraki?
Better not be.
Kiln hit the transmission button and queued up some missiles just in case.
Unidentified cargo vessel, this is Igrean Planetary Security of the House of Shields. Identify yourself.
The speaker crackled. This is Galactic Compact Cargo Cruiser GO-1984. We ran into some debris that disrupted our warp fields. We should be off in a moment.
Please move your disabled ship out of the transit lane. And they're gone.
Fancy new compact ships with automatic rewarping, Vroat complained. In my day, if your bubble was disrupted, you had to do all the calculations all over again. And that was after you spent eons figuring out where you had ended up.
Tell me about it. Ah, I suppose I have to file a minor incident report, don't I?
Yup. Trust me, you do not want the higher-ups to find out that you missed a report.
What's the point?
Kiln grumbled as he filled out the paperwork.
It's not like anybody's ever going to read them.
2 days later, Eternal Thought, Teneus. Teneus growled at the message that had just arrived. From Creole to Teneus Baton. Subject, emergency. My office, now. Teneus made his way over to Creole's office. It wasn't as fancy as Vlaor's in the high house, but it was still the nicest rooms in the shipyard.
What's so important?
You know that blight on Igrean? Creole asked.
Yes,
he and Baton replied. It's developed on Igrean as well. Just a handful of farms ruined so far, but the House of Fields is saying it's the same thing as what's currently destroying Igrean. Creole continued. I'm going to accelerate production of CATACLYSM tugboats as hard as I can. There's a good chance that we can launch CATACLYSM before too much damage is done. Teneus, you need to... Teneus? Teneus snapped out of his mental haze. I'm here. You need to check out the security logs for both planets. See if there's anything in common that would suggest Vastraki action.
Will do.
And also see if High House will let us open up Super Sim to the public. I have a feeling there's about to be a demand for stasis pods and mine storage.
Of course.
Baton stood up.
What's the accelerated time frame for launching CATACLYSM?
The original timetable was 6 months from a successful prototype to full fleet to take out all Vastraki worlds. But in 4 months we will have enough tugboats to target the 8 worlds with a significant female population, plus 3 more of their colonies. It won't win the war as quickly, but it will at least put the remnants of the Vastraki threat on the clock.
In that case, Baton replied, it's time to activate the infiltrator.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been Deathworld Origins, Chapter 5. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did, please go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons down below and drop us a comment. And, as always, a huge shout out to my editor, Gregor. Thank you very much, buddy. I could never do this without you. Now then, once again, any suggestions on what would be a good filling spot to fill the void once this series is over? There's not a whole lot in the Deathworlders universe that is left to be able to explore just yet. I fully intend to do Good Training and Waters of Babylon when we get that far along. There is one other possibility that's not quite within this universe. and actually 2 others. But it would require my negotiations with Hambone again. For those of you unaware, Hambone already has one professionally published book. Let's see, what was that called? Oh yes, Dandelion, which is science fiction in nature. And there's another one which is currently ongoing, which is more fantasy in nature, called The Nested Worlds, which is actually an interesting read. Those are just 2 possibilities that I thought I'd throw out there. But let me know what you all think. Let's see your votes. Now then, question, who's got the question? Okay, I know. Kind of related to the last episode, actually, last Deathworlders episode, I think that was. So rather than skydiving, who here has been scuba diving? I'm not talking snorkeling, I'm talking about actually strapping on an air tank and scuba diving. It's something I've always wanted to do, but I don't think I could do it because my body does not deal well with deep compression. I can barely hit the bottom of the deep end of the pool before it feels like my head is going to implode. This is also why I will not go skydiving a second time, because after the first time, after I pulled the ripcord on that one skydiving that I went on, I realized that plowing into the ground at 130 miles an hour would have hurt less. First off, going from 130 miles an hour to 3 miles an hour in about 1 second flat, not so good on the twins down below. They did not like that at all. But then, there's the whole thing of when you go out of the plane, the sudden wind whipping past your ear seals off your inner ear at pretty much whatever altitude that you left the plane at. And as soon as you pull that ripcord, all that altitude difference comes crashing in on your inner ear. And if you cannot deal well with rapid compression and decompression, it is exceedingly unpleasant. It's like getting your head hit between 2 sledgehammers simultaneously. Yeah, not good. But at any rate, like I said, who here has been scuba diving? Leave your answers in the comments down below, along with any cool scuba diving stories. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all. Bye-bye.